Yes, just on time.
Yeah.
Great. My name is Yulia Tychkiska. I'm Executive Director of Aspen Institute in Kyiv, in Ukraine. I'm Ukrainian. It might be a bit weird for Ukrainian to moderate a panel discussion book launch in London, but it's a big honor for me, and we've been friends with Ron for many, many years, studying for lots of decades almost. We met first time in Turkey, I think, at one of my first Montpellier Society meetings when I was a student, and then our roads were crossing all around the world. I'm also a co-founder of Bendukidze Free Market think tank back in Kyiv, and I've been, after Revolution of Dignity of Maidan in 2014, I joined Ministry of Economy and started key free market reforms as part of Ministry of Economy of Ukraine. Back then, we started big privatization, deregulation, and big reform of procurement. But we are here tonight to celebrate.
I should add one thing, that you fit.
Not yet, not now.
Yulia started the Maidan Youth Revolution that caused the crooked president, Yanukovych, to flee the country, never to be seen again. So
yeah, we still have fight to fight. So tonight we are here, all of us, and thank you for being with us. I know it's a Friday, bank holidays, not the best probably time to gather together, but thank you for coming to celebrate a life that is quite simply hard to believe. The life of Ron Manners, 90 years, 5 generations of prospectors, a gold mining empire built from nearly scratch, a think tank that has shaped thousands of young minds, and you'll tell us about that a bit, a biography that tries bravely to capture all of it. So today we will have a launch of book about Ron Manners, who grew up in the red dirt of Kalgoorlie, Western Australia, in a family where mining wasn't a career, it was a calling. I haven't finished yet. I have a little bit more. And of course, he didn't just follow that legacy. He exploded it, and then at the height of his success, pivoted to something far more ambitious, building a movement for free markets, individual liberty, and the power of ideas. And it's great to be here in the Institute of Economic Affairs with people who share these values, I believe, and we will talk about that a bit as well. Ron witnessed the fall of Berlin Wall, the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Hong Kong hangover, so-called. History didn't just happen around you. He showed up, you showed up for it, you thought about it and built institutions in response to that. Heroic Humility, written by Damon Kidney, and you could see the books just in the corner on the right. It's the story of man who could have been defined by his achievements and choose instead to be defined by his values. So I'm honored to be here with Ron. Please welcome Ron and let's celebrate this big event. We have just an hour. I have a couple of questions, but I'm sure you have much more very exciting questions for tonight. So let's do it interactive and more like very friendly way of having conversation. So lots of things we want to know about you and from you and from your wisdom, Ron. So we will start from the name of the book. Heroic Humility, even for not a native English-speaking person, it's pretty paradoxical. Because normally we celebrate heroes, and humility is very quiet all the time. So where did this tension live in your personality? Why this name? And have you ever felt it like contradiction in your life?
That's an interesting question. I've never thought of humility as being loud or soft. And I've thought of humility as another quality is sort of having a very realistic perception of your own own capabilities, and then that's probably why most of my efforts have been toward things that I have some control over the outcome. not reaching out too far, just solving problems that are within my reach. You know, that's what I think is humility. That there's not an overreach thing, rather than the volume control idea. Yeah.
But also combined with ambition, because the ambition to change the world, to change the mind of other people, it's not very close to reach.
I guess it's not just ambition, because you back yourself into so many tremendous problems that you've got to be almost heroic to get yourself out of these problems. And that I wrote a book called Heroic Misadventures, and it's when I failed so spectacularly. I wrote a book about it, and this is a really strange thing. I ended up selling a book at a profit on how you can completely muck up so many times. But that's a different story. We're not here to talk about failures.
Yes, and we are very pleased to have amazing Ron's daughter today with us. Sarah Basden is just over here, and Sarah is the one who's continuing the legacy, and she's engaged with Menkel about what we will hear about Menkel today more. So it's great to have you here, Sarah, as well. Talking about your identity and going back to where you came from. We have some fellow Australians here, and Western Australians. I know it's even more important identity for you. So at what point you did realize that real gold you were mining wasn't underground, was in somewhere else?
I think the transition from actually being a gold producer to an entrepreneurial think tanker came out of realising that all the really good things that had happened in my life, I've been very fortunate, and all those things really happened by accident. And then I set about saying, could I create an organisation that will create similar accidents, we should call them opportunities, for other young people who are not exposed to very courageous ideas from their time at universities, where I'm told now that it's almost impossible to stand up at a university and ask a question. In my time, the ability to question authorities and question lecturers and question these were the thing to do. But I'm told you don't do it anymore. So we've created the Mancal. And Mancal, by the way, M-A-N-N-K-A-L, it came out of M-A-N-N is the manners bit, which is me, and the other K-A-L was the first letters from Kalgoorlie, where our business was based. So that Mancal became a unique word which enabled us to register a website, and it's a word that's not used. Also, that's a handy. That's where Mancal Foundation came out of it, and so that's what I've tried to do: replicate those opportunities that have made all the difference to me. And I've seen that we've got Mancal's been going now nearly 30 years, and we've produced 3,000 Mancal scholars, such as Samuel Cruikshank.
Hello. That's a real impact we could see.
Our production line produces people like Samuel, who go on to do remarkable things around the world, and our Mancal scholars are all around, they're sprinkled all over the globe, and we're in touch with so many of them. We have a Mancal alumni. We're about to produce a book reflecting on the 30 years, when many of those scholars will have a little contribution to make on their words and what's happened to them subsequently. So that might give me another excuse to have another book launch in London.
We're always here for you. So tell us about your scholars, and so it's more than 3,000 scholars.
About 3,000.
Mancal.
Yeah.
Tell me how you choose the proper people. What's the key features? What are the key things?
They actually keep me out of the selection process, because they sort of think that they would all be about 18-year-old young, attractive girls. There'd be a sort of a standard.
Sarah told me to stop you when you start talking about girls. So you better mind your words,
So
Ron.
they keep me right out
see
of
your
the
mic.
selection process. But I believe that innate curiosity is probably the quality that we seek. And Julian is another sample of our scholarship, and he's innately curious. And this helps on the selection process. It's easy not to be curious because Hayek, our favourite economist, used to talk about the fatal conceit and the assumption that we've got all this knowledge. And it's easy now. You look at a screen and you can press a few buttons and ask a few questions and you get that flood of knowledge. Easy to think that you know everything, but we select scholars who feel that there's just a little bit more for them to learn. And they're the sort of people we want, that realise there's a little bit of extra distance they've got to go before they're a complete person. And we've got a great team selecting the scholars, and I must say I'm not tempted to get involved in the selection process. It's going so well.
Great, thank you. And I'm sure everyone who knows Ron knows that curiosity is probably would be number one word about you. You would walk in the street seeing something interesting, like, yeah, let's see, let's explore. That's great. Let's talk about free markets and ideas of free markets. You've spent decades fighting bureaucracy and mediocrity, and you know lots of stories about even you leaving the country for some reasons. Looking back, what was the most single damaging myth about free markets you experienced? Where people get it wrong from your perspective?
I think, gosh, that's a subject for a whole evening. We can spend a whole evening.
We have 45 minutes.
If I can single out one thing, I think there's a public perception that confuses think tanks with lobby groups. And so often you feel that a think tank comes up with some good theories, and people say, no, they're just a spokesman for big oil or big tobacco or big whatever else is the flavour of the month. But there's a huge difference where think tanks such as IEA devise and carefully construct policies that will benefit everyone. That it's a win-win situation. That's really the subject of good policy. Whereas lobby groups, on the other hand, are really conspiring to create some benefits for the select few, but at the high expense of many others. And it's like a public choice theory explains how they design these policies so that the costs of these policies are spread over many millions of people, so that it doesn't exterminate them quickly, and they don't march in the streets. They just put up with it. So that's the difference between, and the public perception does not differentiate between think tanks on the one hand and lobby groups on the other hand. So there's a lot of education that needs to be done to be precise in our definitions. I think that's probably the example that I'll rest on that.
But I have one more question. So we see less and less young people who are supporting the ideas of free markets and individual freedoms. Why do you think it's happening like that? Is it like just too good life? Like everything is taken for granted? What is missing? Why these ideas are not that vital for public?
Well, freedom is hard. The fight for liberty is hard. But it's not instilled in the young people that the rewards are there. The rewards are worth fighting for. And I've had a lot of battles with bureaucracy. I've been prosecuted by state governments for not going along with some of their occupational licensing I wrote to the Premier, and we call them the Minister for Consumer Affairs, and I said, no, I won't join your protection racket. I will just be content to receive the support from our customers because they enjoy dealing with me. So I won't join their protection racket, and this gave me some satisfaction when that same person, that Minister for Consumer Affairs, who became the state Premier, I got a huge amount of satisfaction some years later when he himself went to jail for corruption. And you know, the good guys won. So no, I think somehow the message doesn't get through that the fight is worthwhile. There's a wonderful, you know, the ability to be self-reliant and not depend on others is a worthwhile challenge. And I've fought the Australia Tax Department for 7 years. I was unable to actually work in Australia for 7 years, but I was based in Hong Kong, doing all sorts of remarkable things, and that's led to the heroic disasters book. You do some amazing things when you're travelling. I got involved in money laundering and all sorts of remarkable, very pioneering experiences. But that was all part of that book. So I think let's on the topic. What do we do to stimulate young people to become self-reliant? I don't know, but I'm just doing the best I can.
Great, thank you. That's great. So we need more stories from you. And let's talk about entrepreneurship experience and journey you've been through. So every entrepreneur faces different kind of challenges, and there is this chance to be collapsed. You take a risk. You just mentioned a couple of stories, but have you had moments when you felt like everything is collapsing and like kind of losing, maybe, I can't imagine you losing hope or something, but...
No, I've had enough time to reflect on a few disasters, and I think that the disasters have mainly been when I left decisions to be made to people who don't pay the price of failure. And Thomas, one of my favourite economists, is Thomas Sowell, who once stated something to the words to the effect that you must never leave decisions in the hands of others who do not pay the price of failure. And I think he's trying to tell us, do not leave our destiny in the hands of others that are not involved, haven't got a stake in their future. Nobody cares more about the outcomes of your individual lives than you do. Do not take the easy way and sit back and say, I will be taken care of, because you won't. It's the road to nowhere. I think that's the thing. There's a few other times when you get a little bit reflective, I suppose, as the years go by. And I think the thing that concerns me is that most of us are so fortunate to be living in countries where we have the benefit of what the old-fashioned term was Western civilization. Something we were born into, something we've enjoyed and we've taken for granted. And I reminded me of the first time I was really conscious of this, when I was fortunate to be with the Cato Institute Transition to Freedom, and they gathered 40 people like me, mainly economists, and we went to Russia for a couple of weeks in September 1990, and we didn't quite realise we would be there exactly at the time the Soviet Union collapsed. And it was an absolutely traumatic experience, just being part of seeing the flags being torn down and the buildings being smashed and the statues being toppled. Very dramatic. And a few of us, I think it was a guy from Iceland and a guy from Mexico and the two other guys. We went down into the town square. We wanted to experience what it's like just walking amongst the people. We got down to where there was a bunch of people, street artists doing cartoons, and we all had our portraits done with these attractives. There was one, I must say, she was pretty attractive looking young girl. Anyway, she
Of course.
she got the job of doing my and she was doing my thing, and we were looking deeply into each other's eyes, and
Ron, I'm watching you and Sarah's watching you.
I don't think we need to hear that.
We don't need to hear it. Okay, next question.
and I'll tell you, it was a really weird experience. And when the picture was, when her artwork was completed, we both stood up and we had a remarkably warm embrace, and to which all the audience were applauding. And I said to our interpreter, who was a young fellow university student, I said, what's going on here? Do you think I've got a chance? And he talked to her, and he came. He said, "No.
Okay, next question.
She by looking into your eyes, she looked into your world, and now she has finished doing the sketch. She is very sad because she knows that is the world she will never know. So that left a very deep impression with me, that we take for granted so many things that other people just simply yearn for. And we've just really got to be, every day I'm thankful.
Yes, thank you.
Where do we go from there?
But talking about history, so I mentioned that on the first part about Berlin Wall and Hong Kong and the Soviet Union collapse, which you just mentioned. And what you just said, it's not that I don't have a question to ask. It's very sensitive to me, because what my country is going through, my family is going through, my friends are going through, some like even lost their life for this value of freedom. And seeing all these historical processes, like during your life, you've been so present in Hong Kong, for instance, for so many years. How do you see that? What you feel, how you reflect on that moments when all these events were happening? Like, what is your impression of what's going on now on the world from your perspective, with all your heritage, with all your experience? What's going on with the world now?
Well, if I was talking to young Ukrainians such as yourself, I would say just start planning for peace now, because when the opportunity will come, and it will come, this can't go on forever. Plan for peace just as Putin plans for war. Plan for peace because the opportunity to reconstruct your nation and getting a fresh start will create opportunities untold for the people that are prepared to take those opportunities, take those challenges on when they come. But you must be prepared. That's I think coming out of every disaster, I've always thought, where to from here? And there's a rung for the ladder to climb.
Good, thank you. So get ready with your questions. I have a couple, but be prepared. Very practical one. People who knows you always see you so smiling, happy, energetic. What is your secret, Ron? Tell us now. Passionate, sharp, at your 90. Oh my God. So, what should we do?
I've known there's no magic pill, but I can think of. But I do fill my Outlook calendar up with events way out in front. So that's enough to stimulate my enthusiasm to be around. And I think the longest calendar invite that I've got is for December the 3rd, 2054. It's only another 28 years. So now, one of the joys of my life was to be selected to give the keynote speech at Ballarat. It's the early goldfields in Australia, and they had a thing called the Eureka Stockade Rebellion, where the prospectors rebelled against the excess taxation and regulations. It's a familiar story. And because my great-grandfather was one of those prospectors who was prosecuted by the police back then, 160 years ago, they got me to give this talk in Ballarat. And they enjoyed it so much, they said, Ron, if you're still around, you can come back. That was the 150th anniversary. And they said, if you're around, you can come back and give another talk for the 200th anniversary, which is...
Yay!
So I put it in my calendar, 3rd
of
December 2054. And I said, I'll be here. So you just got to load yourself up with all these responsibilities. You can't just disappear. You've got to let people down. You can't do that. I have no other secret. I haven't thought too much about being 90.
I could help you.
Yeah.
You always climb the stairs. You never take a lift, elevator, whatever you call it. What else? We need more practical tools, practical advice for the people sitting here. You read a lot, you write a lot, you have lots of young people around you.
Yeah, I worry a lot. Yeah, and I think the young people think I learn so much more from the young people than they ever learn from me. It's fantastic. The way they learn, the way they accumulate information, and I love it. They ask me a question, I'm ready with a 3-hour answer. But after one sentence, I say, hey, that's enough. They just need enough to get into action and do it themselves, which is fantastic. My generation procrastinated. We sought further information, always go back, further information, and by the time we get all the information, the opportunity is past. So I love the impulsive, action-spirited young people that we're dealing with. They only need just enough information to get into the battlefield and get into the front line themselves. So I think being part of that environment is very, very exhilarating.
Great. And what inspires you? What do you have for your soul? Like, what is the inspiration? Be careful.
I should say, people like you, who can have a youth revolution and run the crooked president out of the country. I mean, what about that?
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, here we are. I want to see lots of friends here. Mary, please. We have a mic, I think, because we're recording the thing. No, but we need to record it properly. So
you can ask for me.
The last one is
yes.
Okay. Till the end.
If, say, you went back to your young self and in the current time, as an entrepreneur, what would you be doing? Would it be AI? What would you be doing now? What would you be looking to build a business in? And I say this with the benefit of all the young people here to get ideas from you. But what would you be doing now if you were in your 20s wanting to be entrepreneurial?
Whatever was about to happen, I would be out there looking for it. I have been so fortunate in being part of the emergence of the nickel industry, which Australia never had till the 1970s. And we were doing stuff for the first time, never been done before. Then the nickel industry fell over. we were sitting around wondering what's going to happen, and then the governments deregulated the price of gold. People forget that before about 1970, it was illegal to own gold. Isn't that funny? Now we can
pinch it though.
and that was West Australia's second biggest industry.
You had to hide it.
But they freed up the market for gold, and through and suddenly a few of us say, hey, gold had been fixed at $38 an ounce for so many years, and then it was free, and a lot of us went back to the filing cabinets, pulled out the old plans and looked at the old timers' work that they did, and we saw the re-emergence of the gold mining industry, and just the exhilaration of being part of a new process. There are only about 5 or 6 companies that were involved in bringing the gold mining industry to Australia. I think it's the 3rd biggest industry in Australia now. And I think you've just got to be out there ready for the next thing.
And what is the next?
Well,
What do you think is the next big thing?
well, I know it's AI at the moment. I mean, it just that is amazing, because we've got a guy coming from Washington to spend a week with us in Perth to train the young people on the real potential of how to ask the correct questions, and then what to do with that information, because it's not, people are a little bit sceptical of it, and they have a go at it, they don't handle it well, it gives them imprecise information, but that's quite explosive. And I think if we're looking for something to do, I mean, let's invent a space-age vacuum cleaner to circle the globe to pick up all the space junk that's being developed.
debris.
Nobody's worried about. They're worried about the people driving.
There are actually companies worried about it.
Driving Volvos and heating up the planet and all that nonsense. But meanwhile, we're discharging all this stuff. I'd hate to be hit by spinning stuff that's been up there in space. But we need an electronic vacuum cleaner to eat this thing and turn it into dust before it does some incredible damage. So there's the amount of imagination that you could turn to solving some real problems is just, and I think that's the stuff that will capture the imagination of the young people, and they can be out there and they can be the first in their field. And wow, so that's my thought.
Great. Sam, please.
Cool, so I'll use my event producer privilege, Sam Cruikshank at the IEA. I think it's really interesting that in Australia we're considered the lucky country, and yet we seem to be verging continuously towards the left, and Ukraine is going through horrendous turmoil right now, and yet I'm hearing more positive things about what young people think there than in my own country. I guess I'm curious to know, Ron, maybe for Australia, what do you think we need to do to win the battle of ideas? And then Yulia, what do you think we need to do in Ukraine?
Thank you.
Well, that's what Mankell Foundation's about there, to create the right environment. I think I despair we've got a fuel crisis, with I don't know whether you know, there's a shortage of fuel. We had 5 oil refineries in Australia, and they've all been put out of business, mainly by the unions, and we got 2 remaining there, and we had about 25 days of reserves. So that's the farmers are now wondering whether they can seed this year's crop, and it's just amazing. When we've got Australia, we should be seizing this opportunity. We can produce enough uranium to satisfy the world's requirements. We could be exporting LNG At the moment, we got a Prime Minister who's running around with a cap in hand trying to borrow a few litres from strange little countries that have got surplus fuels. This is absolutely appalling that Australia is not there to play its part in producing energy for the whole world. You know, that's a self-inflicted wound that we've created to our country. But now, Yulia, you give us that. My few visits to Ukraine, I've always come away with the impression that the young people there, the courage with which they fought that Maidan revolution when their government night after night was shooting the students, and they shot and killed 100 young people, their own government, and those young people kept going with their revolution till it was finalised. I kept thinking to myself, would our Australian young people have the courage to keep going? I can't answer that, but I wonder if they have the courage. What gave the young Ukrainian people that courage to keep going night after night?
Like picking up what you were saying about taking for granted, I think that's what really much is going on in the world. And for us, so our history is pretty tough. So we've been through lots of repressions. Our language was forbidden. Our intellectual would be killed. Our religion, whatever religion, different kind of religions would be banned. And I think for my generation, like these two values of dignity and freedom, which goes together, they are so critical that when you have your choice, you are ready to sacrifice for that. And I'm not talking about like 100% of people in the country, of course, but I'm talking about majority of those conscious enough. You just don't want to have another dictator. You're fed up. You had the whole story of struggles, of famine, and you have your dignity, and you're ready to fight for it. And it was so vital, like back then, back to university, like we just need to be there. We just need to stand. And back then, I was already in a free market movement for some time, being at the Atlas Leadership Academy. And like, I've been in this discourse of ideas, and we discussed with Sarah at once, that like, we would talk about fight for freedom. And then like, I literally have to fight for freedom. And sometimes it was a bit of disappointment for me, like from some of my friends around the world, friends in liberty, how we say, that when you literally start to fight for freedom, they are not always there with you, you know? Because I think for us, it was very painful experience, like to experience values by doing. So when I talk about values, I'm not talking about things you declare on your website, on your speeches, whatever. I'm talking about very practical things. Like, I consider values as a mechanism to take decisions every day towards your close ones, toward your employees, toward your staff, to your friends. So values are very practical things, and you prove them by actions. And for us, it was like, in all senses, were so essential. That was the only way. And the price for freedom is high. It's very painful. My husband was fighting on the front line. I know how it feels. My brother lost his 2 limbs last year. And it's terrible. But what is the alternative? And understanding that alternative is to be under dictatorship, to have no freedom, to have no chance to choose anything, that just to not go for us. But it also comes from, it's very resonates that we take for granted many things. And we feel sometimes in our comfortable bubbles, too comfortable. And we better be strong and be prepared. And I think courage and braveness is important, but also to be united, to be strong. That's very important. And to fight to defend the values we really believe in. Next question. Thank you. Yes, please.
Ron, a number of people may not know much about your past, and so it might be helpful for you to fill it in. But as far as I understand, you took over a family business and then you grew it. But that in itself is quite a lot to do. At what point did you realise that you believed in free market ideas, and there's a step? Yes, okay, I believe in free market ideas, but you actually wanted to do something about it. You wanted to spread those ideas, and you set up the foundation. What was that spark that made you want to do that?
Oh, that's not easy. It's
What a great question. I had the same on my list, but I'm glad you answered.
Our family business has been going 131 years, which is 6 years longer than the Australian flag or the Australian nation. It was just a collection of states when my grandfather created the company. Then I then worked. It was my father's business then, like a mining engineering business, and I used to work after school. And when I was about 16, one of my jobs was unpacking these big crates of mining equipment that came from USA. And so the packing material in there, there was no bubble wrap back in those early mid-last century days. They had crumpled up magazines, and the magazines were the Freeman magazine produced by the Foundation for Economic Education in USA. And as a 16-year-old, I used to smooth out those magazines and take them home and read them, and I liked all that talk about individual responsibility, and I liked it, you know. And I ended up writing to a fellow called Leonard Reed, who was the president of the Foundation for Economic Education, which we call FEE, which is still going. And he was a patient enough guy. He used to answer all my questions, and he became my mentor until he died in 1983. Probably the most influential person, apart from my parents. And so it was an accident, opening up boxes and reading the packing material. So that's another one of my collection of accidents that helped me along the way.
Great. Yes, please.
Ron, how have you escaped the tall poppy syndrome in Australia?
But explain us what it is.
What is the tall poppy syndrome? I think that people, they think the easy way to climb up is to tear the people down that are probably one jump ahead of you. But I sort of came out of a generation where nobody had any money. You know, there was no wealth. People were in the during my parents never had any money. It was always, you know, it was there was no and I think that when you accumulated just enough money to do what you wanted to do, it was really regarded as a privilege. So I've never, and I don't live in a part of the city. There's certain suburbs where the people think once they've earned a certain level, they should shift houses and go into a certain suburb. We're just very comfortable where we are. We're busy doing what we're doing. Just leave us alone. So the tall poppy thing, it's like climbing a ladder to nowhere. So that's my answer there.
Any questions? Because I have the last one. It's the most important one.
The most important one. Get ready for this.
Get ready for this. We have one more. Mary.
Just
yes.
one more question. Could you talk about the think tanks around the world and the opportunities available to participate in them?
I'd love to. That's you've got to stop me because it's a fabulous story, and the story of the think tanks, the creation of all the think tanks, is in my other book, there's two books down there, and one's this Damon Kitney, fabulous author, who's written this recent biography, and people are saying, well, Ron, you've written 8 books, how come somebody's now writing a book about you? Well, Kitney said to me, he said, Ron, you're very clever, you've written 8 books that said nothing about you. The reason was that I've been travelling through my whole life with so a bunch of interesting people that they're the people I've been writing about, and so he's written that book. But the earlier book called Impatient Libertarian really covers the think tanks and the 5 influences that went, 5 individuals, the influence of them that went into the creation of our Mankell Foundation is a story in itself. Part of that story is Sir Anthony Fisher, who was the king of the think tanks, and I knew Fisher and his wonderful daughter Linda, of course, that many of you know. He came back from the World War II as a fighter pilot, hero, and he read Hayek's book, The Road to Serfdom, and he was stimulated to do something about stopping the drift into socialism in the UK. And he went to see Hayek as the author of this book, and Hayek said, what are you going to do about it? The Fisher said, I want to be a politician and change all this. And Hayek said, don't do that, you'll just become like all the rest of the politicians. Just create an entity in which you can persuade people, because politicians are not leaders, they are followers. If you can create the public perception of policies, the politicians will then follow, thinking there's a few votes in it if they go along with this new range of ideas. And then he said to Fisher, but you can't do it because you haven't got enough money. You've got to have money, you've got to have capital to do anything in this world. So Fisher said, he just came back from America, and he realised that the Americans were eating better poultry, better chickens than they were in England. So he said, well, this is what I'm going to do. I'll import some of these American versions of the chickens and have a thriving business. He found you couldn't do that. It was illegal to import chickens, live chickens from America. So he thought about it for a while, and then he went back to America and he bought 12 fertilised eggs and wrapped them up as Easter eggs, put them in his package, in his bag, came back to America, and at customs they said, what's this? He said, I'm just taking some Easter eggs for my children. He got them through, and from those 12 fertilised eggs he created the biggest chicken industry in England, which was called Buxted chickens, which he then sold out at the peak of the market, created the capital to create the IEA. I think the Pacific Institute, the Fraser Institute, and think tank after think tank. And then he realised he had this family of think tanks all around the world, so he created the Atlas Network. It was called the Atlas Economic Research Institute at that time, later called the Atlas Network, and they now not control, but they coordinate and assist and train 685 think tanks around the world in some countries that you've never heard of. What a legacy that guy left. An incredible story. And that story is in my other book back there called The Impatient Libertarian.
Any questions? So I will go to the last one. So I hope you remember the name of the book we are talking about today. It's called Heroic Humility. So 90 years of ideas, impact, movement, and yet the word with the author choose is humble. So Ron, how did you manage to stay so humble during your life till now?
Let me take a minute to think about that. That it probably reminds me. I had a birthday party earlier this year. It was the 90th birthday party, and I, as you do, I looked at the internet to see what was the other event that may have happened in the same year that I was born, because you to make a bit of a story of it, and guess what I discovered also happened in 1936. Dog food was discovered and marketed. So let me ask, could there be anything more humbling than playing second fiddle to dog food? So I think we should sell some books.
Thank you, Ron. It's a big pleasure to be with you, and 25 years. I hope we will see your book sooner than that. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And Sam, floor to you. We have some drinks and some time to informally talk to our author. Thank you for coming. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, we'll have a drinks reception for about another half an hour. So, okay.
Thank you.